Greenberg News.
WNJC, Washington Township, Philadelphia. Philadelphia's Renaissance radio station. Brought to you from Forsyth Broadcasting. Or listen to us at WNJCradio.com. It's Philadelphia's Renaissance radio station. WNJC 1360 AM. Washington Township, Philadelphia. Broadcasting online. WNJCradio.com. A service of Forsyth Broadcasting.
And welcome back to Greenberg News with your host, Brian Greenberg on WNJC 1360 AM. Rocking at you, wrapping up our 19th year of broadcasting. My next guest is Sergeant Stephanie Shannon, who's an author, entrepreneur, consultant, inspirational speaker, and veteran advocate who has over 27 years of experience in the fields of business, social work, community development, leadership, ministry, collaborations, workshops, and seminars. She's an honorably discharged disabled U.S. Army vet who served her country for 8 years, including the 1991 Desert Storm and Desert Shield Persian Gulf War. Stephanie, welcome to Greenberg News.
Thank you.
Hey, it's a pleasure to have you on my program.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely. Oh, let me give you first a plug for your website, battlingthestormswithin.com. And Steph, I guess it's my heart really goes out to the people who've served in the military. There's so much has been made, different organizations come to honor them, but people really don't have the first clue what a soldier has been through in a foreign involvement and have to re-engage into civilian society. Why don't you talk about the problems and issues that soldiers encounter during their military service?
Well, I would say everybody's experience is different, and mine's in particular. When I joined the military, I was like 20 years old. I was real young. I wasn't really aware of the military structure, all the rules, the regulations. I was a kid, wet behind the ears, just eager to, be all I can be and travel the world. I had this really, idea of, I can really experience some things and earn some college money and get my college degree. Those are things that the recruiter sold to me. So I went in with that attitude, and after going to basic training in AIT, I ended up 5 months later overseas in Desert Storm, and it was mind-blowing. I didn't really understand what was going on. I just knew I signed up, and when I commit to something, what often happens is that, on the other end, you're kind of hoping that the organization and the people involved will do the same thing. So in my particular situation, I experienced what they call military sexual trauma. Military sexual trauma is experienced. 1 in 3 women, a lot of people don't know this, but 1 in 3 women in the military are raped. 38 men a day are sexually assaulted in the military. Yes, it's all coming out in the last couple of years, to say, because more veterans are talking about their experiences and whatnot.
So let me ask you, and clearly, the statistics are frightening. 1 in 3 women are sexually assaulted?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, why, that kind of statistic, why don't the women have some, go into some sort of civil disobedience or whatever to demand change for that kind of action that goes in the military service?
Well, actually, it was a lawsuit that was filed by women against the Department.
But if it's 1 in 3, I mean, that's not like that's like 1 in 300. It's not like, maybe I might get it. This is like 1 in 3 is a horrible statistic. I think the women who, really you guys should have got together and shut down the military and demanded they have action.
Well,
you're not going to tolerate it.
I know it would be, that if it could be that easy, it'd be great. But actually, at the time, I didn't know what military sexual trauma. When I was back in 1990 in the Desert Storm War, there was no system of reporting. Most of the things that is just now coming up and at the legislative level that's being advocated for has just started in 2012. There's one movement of women that put together the Invisible War movie, and they put it at the table of Congress to review it, and it's deadlocked right now. It's the Military Justice Act, where they take the control out of the commander's hands. Because what happens in the military, if something happens to you, you have to report it if you choose to your chain of command. So you can't jump out of the chain of command. And usually that person or that person that offended you or did something to you are connected to that leader. So most of the time what happens is shut down. That's why most of us don't get reported. I didn't report my situation because I didn't have a place to report it, and I really didn't think it would make a difference. I had 2 other friends over there that were raped, and there was no legal action done. So at the time, there was no movement. In the last few years, like I stated, I think veterans are coming together and addressing this issue. It seems legally possible, but it really isn't for you to sue the government. There was a lawsuit where a group of women came together and demanded action, but what they ruled was that it's military sexual trauma or military sexual assault is considered a hazard in the job. So I feel like
that's like you're driving on a road and it says there may be some potholes there, so you're on your own.
Basically, that's what they did. So they didn't get compensated, and it's really unfortunate because what happens is I feel if it's a hazard, the job duty, it needs to be stated up front in recruitment. That possibility, look at you straight in the face and let you know you may be raped, you may be sexually assaulted. Do you still want to join? So I think that would be a fair trade there, but it's not necessarily what's going on in the military. The military world is like night and day. Like the civilian world, you get some injustice done, you can hire attorneys, you can go to court. The military, everything is within the chain of command control. And most of the things, like I know, you saw the scandal at the Air Force Base, Lackland and whatnot, and most of those things were exposed in the public. But those cases just recently got turned over. The decision that was made, the commanders at the top turned the decision over. So it's really a horrible system to be in. And what I'm doing is trying to raise of awareness to the truth of what could happen to you if you choose to join the military.
It's funny, you might appreciate this. I was out in Colorado, I don't know, maybe 7-8 years ago, something like that. And I happened to be out in Colorado Springs and had an opportunity to tour the Air Force Academy. And being from the media and all, they were going to give me I was getting a personal tour guide. So I'm walking around, and there's not a soul on campus, all walking around. I say, where is everybody? And he just, finally admitted there was, they said there's been some infractions and we're on shutdown. And apparently there was some wild party or people were off, went off campus and some event occurred. Literally the whole school was in shutdown mode. No one was allowed to leave the barracks.
Yeah. It's like the military, just like this. Like you have a job, you leave, you work 9 to 5 or whatever it is. You shut it down. You go home to your family. You do whatever. The military, you sleep with these people. You eat with these people. You do not have a separate life. They basically control you. They can tell you what to wear, what time to be there. You can work 10-hour days, and they tell you in the middle of the night, get up, and we have a certain activity we got to participate in. You are not owned. The government owns you, technically. And that's what I really wasn't aware of that because I was deceived and thought that, if your commander allows you to go to school, you're able to go after you get off work. I have this real civilian mindset. But basically, as you see there, they basically control things. They shut it down. You don't have any personal freedom. Everything decision you make is monitored. And it's like you can't get away from anyone. So it's not like it's a free society. You have these choices. And then a lot of it, what happens is that the rules are bended for specific people. In my particular situations, there was women that was allowing their sergeant to, fraternize with them and have sex with them. Those women had passes and, was laying out in the sun while we coming back dirty and, sleeping on flat beds and having hard work all day. So it depends on the person. So it's a lot of corruption within that system.
Yeah, well, that gets me to the bigger, issue here is, that. Well, let me ask you, what did you think of your military? You were in combat situation when you were over in the Gulf War?
Yes, I was a 88 Mike. That's a truck driver, a transportation specialist. I drove 14-ton tractor trailers. I hauled Patriots and missiles and ammo. So yes, I was. So
you have to worry about the IEDs then all the time, right?
Yeah, and we had Scud missile attacks. Yeah, at all times. So yeah, we were on alert. Yes, vaccine.
So. Now, what do you think of our government's involvement over there?
Right now?
Or then, for that matter?
At that time, I'll be honest with you, I think it was all about oil and money.
Well, it's always about oil money.
Yeah, that's why
nothing changes. I mean,
yeah.
So I guess my point is, and this is, I want to ask you. I'm so glad I have you on because, obviously there's always a big, we should support our military and so forth and the people who serve. But I think we really do a disservice by taking that position, and I'll tell you why. All right, obviously you're coming back, and you should be supporting what we went through. But by saying that it's okay, then the person who hasn't joined yet thinks, oh, this is a good thing. We should join. Look, everyone likes you, and they support what you're doing, and no one really knows what you go through unless you've been there. So I think by supporting the military soldiers, we're encouraging people who have not served to join up and get thrown into that. I mean, would you want your worst enemy to join the military?
No, I tell anybody, I said, if you have any other option, do it. I said the military, let it be the last resort. I feel like this now. If you're drafted, that's a whole other thing. But to volunteer into that organization,
right now we're all volunteer. That's exactly my point. And by taking that position, then what we're doing is, you're getting a whole new, generation of people coming back all messed up.
Yeah, most of the people I know, I had 20 years undiagnosed. I worked as a social worker. I kept working. I was one of those people that was a workaholic. Instead of dealing with all the pain and hurt I had, I just started doing something else. I went to school for this. I joined this. It's kind of where I ran from it. And I agree with you. I had an invisible wound. And I tell anybody, I tell them when I ever hear them saying, oh, I want to join, I go, for what? You tell me. And I say, well, what did they tell you? I said, if you really want a real perspective, you need to go to the VA hospital and talk to some of the veterans that's been in the military, and they're going to tell you the sober truth.
That's what anything we do in life. You should always talk to people who've been there and done it. But I don't think you have to. I don't think you have to go to a VA hospital. I think you just talk to anybody who served.
Yes. A lot of people. I'm telling you, some people are in denial. I have some veterans that, oh, my experience is great. Oh, I did this and I was promoting this, and I just look at them. I was like, okay, and it can be true. I do believe everybody's situation is different, but the majority of the ones I know that are honest, they experienced something. Traumatic, or if it didn't happen to them, it happened to someone else. A lot of time what it is, you try to, live below the radar and, make it through and get your time out. That's what a lot of people have done when things were happening. They would turn their head from it. It's not me. I'm staying clean right here so I can get my promotion. So I saw a lot of that, too.
Yeah, well, it's the corruption and the bureaucracy. And like any organization that's existed as long as this bureaucracy is actually drumming out those people who are qualified.
I agree. Because even when you get out, say for instance, if you get out with honorable discharge, as many people I know, if they don't like you, they can put you out. They can just say that you have a personality disorder, or label you as incorrigible, whatever, and you can be blackmarked where you can't even get.
That's for the rest of your life.
Yes. That's what I was riding on. I was trying to stay below the wire. I was taking it. I was just trying to, buy my time so I can get out in honorable discharge. But when I came back to the VA system, they told me they couldn't find my records. It was hilarious. I said, are you serious? I bet if you want me to go overseas again, you'll find them. Yeah, for years, I was, quote unquote, I didn't have any military files or anything. And I was just so hurt by that. I was like, I couldn't believe it. So I was denied twice. And then when I reapplied again, it took me 4 years. 4 years. I would end up homeless. In the homeless veteran program, suffering from that because I was not getting the benefits and the resources I need to restore myself. So I had to, when you get out, you have to fight for benefits. If people think that you're automatically going to get them, I'm a veteran, da-da-da-da-da. No. You have to know somebody that knows somebody.
Yeah, that VA system is another disaster. It goes, again, it's a government bureaucracy, and you can't, again, you have, that's what people understand is that when you have something that's been in place for a long period of time like this is, the people run it has nothing to do with the services they're supposed to be doing. It's all about keeping their job and acquiring power and making more money.
I agree, because there's some people that you wonder, they extend past their 20-year contract, and they're at 30 and 40 years, and I'm like, oh my God, don't you want a life? But what happens is that once you get the military in you, it's very difficult to get it out. I say once military, always military. Meaning that your mindset, the way you look at things is different. I am very different. Even though I'm able to put on hats, I know how to, present this way, present
you've
that way,
been
but I
scarred.
think totally different.
Well, sure, you've been scarred by your experience. I mean, it's,
Yes.
let alone, I mean, to me, you have to go over and kill people. And I don't,
Right.
I sound like, I don't know if you, I don't think you had to do that situation. Were you ever in that situation?
I would say indirectly. I feel like if I delivered the bomb, if I helped assist in this, I indirectly helped. That's how I feel.
You're in the pipeline. But it's funny. Actually, maybe you can appreciate this. Then there's a fellow who's been on radio for many years in Philadelphia named Murph Homer, and he was a bombardier. In World War II. He saw with the bombs. That was his job, and it's like you're a cog in the machine, and while that's all true, ultimately what the end result is, you got to shut it down to survive, or otherwise they win.
That's true.
It's the system gets you, so you gotta it's not about you. It's about it's about the system, and a lot of people can't handle it. That's how it works. But in this world, there's evil and there's good, and you can't allow evil to get into your system, and it takes a really hard constitution to do that. But that ultimately that's the way he survived and moved on with his life.
Right, and that's how I felt. I felt I was toxic. I was polluted with such, unethical behaviors. Because after a while, I started wondering. And I used to pray when I was a after God, don't let me ever have to kill anybody. I knew I was trained to be a killer, but I was like, I really don't want to do this. After I got in.
No, but these people didn't do anything to you. They weren't knocking on your door. You're trying to break into your house.
No.
And that's the nature of all these conflicts. And everyone gets. These craziness that goes on in the Middle East, these people aren't knocking on your door trying to do this to your family. They're doing it to themselves over there. But it's
right.
But it's
and I feel the system, especially like they do a lot of brainwashing, especially basic and throughout your military career, they do a lot of brainwashing. And if you don't have a strong mind, I could say this: the military either breaks you or makes you. When I was going through basic and whatnot, we had like 42 women. And our graduating class was only 22.
Wow.
About these women had nervous breakdowns. A lot of them just couldn't take it. It really pulls out what you are. And because I was always a strong-willed person and a fighter, it really made me even more determined. I was like, you're not going to break me. I am going to make it through. They never saw me cry, but I was angry. I wanted to fight them all, but I knew I couldn't, So.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think women belong in the military?
Well, that's a tough question. I will say this. I think women have always been a part of the military. They just have acknowledged us more, like in, the racks and whatnot. If you look at the history of the military, women were already around.
Well, I'm not saying that they haven't served, and I understand in support roles and all that, but I guess, clearly in the volunteer army, you're going to take whoever wants. So I'm just saying, do you think they belong in a military situation?
I think women can do support, but as far as what they're doing now, making women or opening the doors for them to be in combat, I really think, from my experience and whatnot, I wouldn't sign up for that. I really think
that's my point, and I think if this was, if in our society, if we really cared about our women, we wouldn't put our women in harm's way.
I agree. When I was there, I didn't know. When I signed up to be an 88 mile truck driver, you can drive any type of vehicle in the military. Mm-hmm. I ended up being an 88 mile truck driver that drove 14-ton tractor trailers. That was a man's job. It was hard. Oh my God! I was only like 125 pounds, and I'm sitting up there trying to load these big old missiles, and driving the truck. My back, and I have major injuries for it. But if I really knew that I was going to work that hard, and I couldn't take it. And I was like, I'm hurt, I'm tired, and they're like, oh, here she go. And, and the work we had to do, we had to pull them over just as the guys. So I do feel that the difference in our makeup, and a lot of women don't agree because they're real feminists and they feel like, hey, we can do what the guys do. I would say, me, I can't, okay? Well, I'm going to try to lift something that I can't, and extend my body to that extent. I would never do it again. I would never sign up or promote anyone to sign up in a male-dominated role or even a male-dominated organization, because I really feel that's what happened in the military. They let us in, but they really didn't embrace us. You have to fight to be respected.
Well, again, it's a hierarchy, and that's how they maintain it. But that's I just think what I want to get to. when this intruder at the White House, he overpowered the CI, one of the guards there. Well, it was a woman. And nothing against women, but if I'm at the White House and I'm President Obama or something, I want Mr. T, I want the size of, football players around me. I don't want a 5'5" female, 120 pounds. I mean,
no.
And this person overpowered it, clearly. I mean, it's insanity. We subscribe to ideas that just make no sense at all.
No, and any women that is really real about it, suppose you have all these people to advocate for, but they've never worked in these roles. They never served in these roles. They don't know. No. And I tell them that. We have discussions like that all the time in these groups I'm in. And I tell them, I said, I will not support or recommend any woman to step into a role where she can't even naturally handle it. I mean, the emotional pressure and whatnot, if you're sitting there all day, some days when we were on the road, we couldn't take showers for 3 days. I was going nuts. I was like, where's the bathroom? And I was just, basic things. You got flies all over the place and you're sweating. The guys are like, oh, this is nothing. I'm like, I can't take this, and I was really going through a psychological, emotional turmoil. And after I served in that position, I was like, oh, I can't. I would never recommend this anymore to anybody. Yeah, I just really had a false sense of it, really unrealistic.
Well, and again, you should not blame yourself because you didn't know.
Yeah.
And that's how our society is groomed for putting people like yourself in these situations. But unfortunately, Stephanie, we are out of time. I wish you the best. Am I going to see you in New York? You going up to RTI there?
No, I was just there last year, but I'm trying to make it to the next one. I got some pretty strong connections. But yeah, I'm about to launch my book. Matter of fact, this month, next October 27th, Battling the Storm Within.
Well, you keep it rocking, Stephanie, and it's a pleasure and an honor to have you on my show.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And that wraps up this segment of Greenberg News. We're going to take a brief break. Be right back after these messages.
This is 13.